You ever watch someone good, someone who's done everything right, get completely crushed by greedy people who think money makes them untouchable? Yeah, that happened to my best friends. They were about to buy the home they'd been renting for years, until a bunch of rich brats decided to screw them over for a few extra bucks. But what those spoiled heirs didn't know was that I had a plan, and by the end of it, their greed would cost them everything. If you've ever dreamed of watching karma slap the arrogant and greedy right across the face, hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up, because this is one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll ever hear. 15 years ago, my best friend and her husband were just trying to survive. 5 kids, 1 income, and an insanely expensive city where rent felt like a luxury tax on breathing. They lived in an old, 4-bedroom house that should have been condemned years earlier. Cracked walls, a kitchen that smelled like wet cardboard, and drains that reeked like the underworld itself. But it was home. They paid $400 a week, which back then was already pushing it, but it was the best they could do. The only reason they managed to stay afloat was because of their landlord, a sweet old lady with more kindness than most billionaires combined. She loved them, treated them like family, and she made a promise. Once you've saved enough for a loan, I'll sell the house to you. No rush. I want this home to stay with good people. For 5 long years, my friends saved every cent, every bonus, every tax refund. They went without holidays, dinners out, even birthdays, all for that one dream, to finally own their home. Then one morning, they got the courage to tell her, "We're ready. We've got enough saved. Let's make it official." And 2 days later, she passed away. No contract, no paperwork, just a promise, gone with her. That's when the vultures descended. Her 4 children, each one richer than the last. Suits, designer handbags, fake sympathy dripping off every word. At first, they pretended to be kind. "Of course, we'll honor mother's word," they said. "We just have to wait for probate to be settled." My friends believed them. They trusted that decency still existed. They even started fixing the place up, peeling wallpaper, repainting rooms, dreaming of a future that was already being stolen from them. Months passed. Probate finally cleared, and the kids called back with smiles so fake you could see the plastic from space. "Good news, we'll sell it to you for the agreed price." Relieved, my friends applied for the bank loan. They waited, and then the shock hit. Loan denied. The price was suddenly $80,000 higher. The heirs had raised it behind their backs, and worse, they'd put the house on the open market. They had 7 days before an open house. 7 days before strangers walked through the only home their kids had ever known. When they told me, my stomach dropped. Their voices were shaky, eyes hollow. The bank said they might be able to borrow more, but it would take longer than a week. And the rental market? Forget it. Prices had exploded. Even tiny 2-bed units were double what they paid. If they lost this house, they'd lose everything. Their stability, their kids' school, their community. Step 2. Destroy the vibe, literally. My friend boiled a whole head of cabbage on the stove until the smell became unbearable. We sprayed ammonia by both doors, so it reeked like every stray cat in the neighborhood had chosen that spot to mark their territory. And for the final touch, 24 rotten eggs straight down the drain. Within minutes, the house smelled like a mix between a swamp and a sewer explosion. Step 3. Stage the neighborhood. We asked a neighbor if we could dump an old moldy couch in their front yard. They laughed and agreed instantly. Then, on the day of the open house, we turned the whole block into a circus. Anyone with a loud car? We asked them to do laps around the street. Every 5 minutes, revving engines, squealing brakes, chaos. Our rugby friends? Massive, Loud, lovable guys. We invited them over for a BBQ party next door. Free food, cheap beer, and motorcycles lined up down the street. From the outside, it looked like a rough neighborhood, hosting a street festival that never ends. By the time the real estate agent arrived, it was pure glorious mayhem. People came in waves. Some didn't even step out of their cars. One woman sat in her vehicle for 5 minutes, stared at the crowd of bikers laughing over sausages and beer, and then quietly drove away. Others walked in, took one sniff of the place, and gagged. One guy actually coughed and asked, "Is something dead in here?" The agent looked like she was about to cry. Every showing was shorter than the last. Until finally, one brave man stuck around. Maybe he saw potential. Maybe he just had no sense of smell. He tried to chat with a neighbor, who happened to be one of our rugby mates, pretending to grab another beer. The buyer asked, "So is it usually this busy around here?" And our friend smiled and said, "Oh yeah, mate. Every couple of weeks we have a big party. Last night's was 3 doors up. Is it usually this busy around here? That's why everyone's still hanging around." He then added, "Watch out for those drains, though. Tree roots block them all the time. Smells like hell when it happens." The buyer nodded politely, thanked him, and left without another word. He never came back. By the end of the open day, only one offer came in. My friends. They had just enough to meet the original price, not the inflated one. And since the heirs were desperate to sell before the market cooled off, they accepted. The papers were signed, deposit paid, deal closed. 2 days later, the agent called them again, voice trembling with disbelief. Someone else offered 30,000 more after the contract was signed. But here's the best part. Because of anti-gazumping laws, once a sale is under contract, it's final. The heirs couldn't take the higher offer even if they wanted to. Their greed had backfired beautifully. And my friends, they finally owned their home. I never saw the heirs' faces, but I imagine pure, priceless shock. 4 ultra-wealthy siblings, realizing their easy payday, vanished because they tried to squeeze a struggling family for pennies. Meanwhile, my friends stood in their now safe, stinky, cabbage-scented kitchen, laughing until they cried. All that stress, all that fear, gone, replaced by pure, unapologetic relief. They'd won, not through luck, through loyalty, love, and a little creative chaos. You know, revenge doesn't always have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes it's just giving greedy people exactly what they deserve, a taste of their own poison. And in this case, justice smelled like rotten eggs and boiled cabbage. If this story gave you that karma-delivered satisfaction, hit that like button. It really helps out. And tell me in the comments, what's the most creative revenge you've ever seen or pulled off? Don't forget to subscribe for more true stories where the good guys actually win. Because sometimes, karma just needs a little push.